What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Fish the Moment. Today, I want to talk to you about the first bass fishing tournament I fished in over 5 years and what I learned. So let's get into it. Okay guys, so I was really on the fence about whether I wanted to make this tournament recap because in all honesty, I sucked. I did not do well in this tournament. I only caught 2 fish for 2.8 pounds and it just was really embarrassing, honestly, really frustrating, and it's not the expectation I had for this tournament, and it's not what I expect for myself as a fisherman. And part of me just wanted to shove this video in the back closet, not talk about it, not even address it, and move on with my life. But at the same time, I feel like I owe it to you guys to tell you when I do well as when I struggle, because that's what's going to help you guys become better bass fishermen. And I'm just gonna put my pride, my ego aside and tell you guys what happened. And one thing I know is that everybody has bad fishing tournaments. I know this, but at the same time, it's my first tournament in 5 years. I have been making all these videos about top 5 tournament mistakes and all these pro patterns to catch big fish, and I didn't get it done. And so what I want to do in this video is explain why I believe I didn't do well in this tournament and how I'm going to fix that in upcoming tournaments to do a lot better. And looking back on the tournament, there really aren't that many things I need to change to do a lot better going forward, but I did make some key mistakes in my mindset and in my preparation that really held me back in this event. And I want to share that with you guys, as well as my strategy for how I'm going to improve and take this learning experience to get a lot better and make a lot more great content for you guys. So what went wrong in this event that caused me to only catch 2 fish in 8 hours of fishing? Well, the main thing was my mindset going in the tournament. And as I mentioned before, I fished over 170 tournaments in my life, and the second to last tournament I fished 5 years ago was a college regional championship that I actually won. And back when I was fishing tournaments a lot, there's 2 things that I knew going in every event. One, that I was extremely confident in my decision making, and 2, that I was going for the win in every single tournament. So what does that mean? Well, basically, I felt like I had that killer tournament instinct to know that any decision I made could result in a 3 or 4 pound bass, and I was confident in my decisions. And during this event, I was not confident in my decisions, and I wasn't trusting my gut. There were several times throughout the event that I was fishing down a certain stretch of bank or a certain area of the lake, and I felt like it wasn't the right deal and I needed to make a change. But there was one thing that was sticking in the back of my head all day long, and that was fear. The fear of not catching fish, the fear of zeroing. And 3 hours in the tournament, I did not have a single keeper in the boat. And I don't want to get into all the factors of why I wasn't catching them, all those things. It's not really that important for this video. The big thing is that I didn't trust myself enough to make a change from what I had done in practice and what I was seeing in the event to try to go catch bigger fish. And back when I was fishing tournaments a lot, especially in college, a lot of my events, I wouldn't have a keeper fish in the boat until 11 o'clock. And there's actually one tournament season that my fishing partner and I fished where we won Angler of the Year in the college club and finished no lower than 3rd place in all 6 events. And in 5 of those 6 events, we didn't have a single keeper bass in the boat until 11 o'clock. And I got very used to the concept of not having good fish in the boat for the majority of the day and then catching a solid limit of 2 to 3 pounders within the last 3 hours of my fishing day. And I knew that any stop I pulled up on could result in 3 or 4 quality tournament fish. But in this tournament, I did not trust my instincts. I didn't trust my gut. And there's actually one crucial point in this event where I was thinking about pulling the plug on my primary area, running 10 miles down the lake and fishing in brand new water I hadn't even fished in the event. And I just had this feeling that that section of the lake would be on, that the fish would be biting, and come to find out, that's where the majority of the top 10 anglers in this tournament caught all of their fish. And so it's really frustrating to know that halfway through my day, my gut was telling me to make a change that probably would have helped me do really well in the tournament, but I ignored it because I wanted to stick in the area where I practiced out of fear of not catching any fish. And I did end up catching a few keeper bass, but it wasn't enough to do anything in this event. And so the one thing that I realized from this whole tournament experience is that I need to recapture that killer instinct. how to go about going after those bigger fish, those 3 and 4 pound bass, and how to not worry if I'm not getting bit halfway through the day. And that's something that you can train through lots of experience and time on the water, but it's also something you can prepare for in your preparation. And so one thing I want to do in upcoming videos is explain this killer instinct and kind of document my journey in recapturing that, as well as trying to figure out how I can go about consistently catching big bass, those 3 and 4 pounders I need to win tournaments. And so that is going to be my goal going forward the rest of the season. And there are a couple ways I'm going to do that. The first is I'm actually going to rely on some past data that I've gathered in a prior video on the baits that allow me to catch the bigger than average fish, the 3 and 4 pound bass. And I made a video about this about 2 years ago and found that a jig and a crankbait accounted for about 50% of my 3+ pound bass. And it's interesting because during this event, I never even picked up a jig more than 15 minutes a day, even though this is my #1 bait for catching 3 and 4 pound bass. And part of that was just because I feel like I spun out in the event, had all kinds of other things flying through my head in terms of how do I film a good video? How do I not zero? How do I not embarrass myself? All these different things. And so one of the things I want to do with making this video is get all of this out, let you guys see that I am not perfect, that I'm not always going out there and catching a bunch of big fish, even though sometimes I show up in my videos, and allow myself the ability to fail, because that is really important. If I have that fear of failure in the back of my head every single time I go fish a tournament, there's no way I'm going to be successful. And so going forward, I'm not going to worry about zeroing. If I zero, that's fine. If I'm making good decisions though, that I feel like are putting me in a position to catch 3 and 4 pound bass, I'm going to most likely catch them. And if I don't, I can live with that. The one thing I can't live with is knowing that I had that right decision, that gut feeling in my head, and decided to ignore it out of fear. So let me lay out my plan for getting back my killer instinct, as well as putting bigger fish in the boat. And the first thing I want to do is go back through all of my old fishing trips and all my old videos and figure out what techniques, what patterns, and what areas produced the biggest fish in each season. And I've done this somewhat in my other videos, but I want to take all of the videos I've made, compile it into one concise video to say, here are my top 5 patterns in each season that produce better than average fish. This will allow me to be a lot more confident in my decisions when I have to try to pull the plug in a tournament and something's not working and I just have to fish the moment. The second thing I'm going to do is focus my fishing days on trying to locate and catch those 3+ pound bass. And a lot of times when I go fishing nowadays, I just focus on getting bites, catching fish so I can make videos. But for tournaments, that's not good enough. I need to be focusing on catching those 3 and 4 pounders, even if it means going out and zeroing, not catching any fish, or getting 1 or 2 bites a day. And I'm gonna walk you guys through this process to show you what patterns don't work in certain times of the year for catching better than average fish, at least on my lakes, so you can learn there, but then also the patterns that do work. So it should be super informative for you guys. And then the last thing I'm going to do is try to expand my repertoire of baits that I'm confident in for catching those 3+ pound bass. Obviously, I have a lot of confidence in a jig and a crankbait, but a jig and a crankbait may not get it done in every single situation, and there may be other baits that may produce better in tournaments, especially when you get a lot of tournament pressure out there and everyone is fishing a jig and a crankbait. And so I want to expand my repertoire, go into big spinner baits, swim baits, other type of baits that might put bigger fish in the boat and that others maybe aren't throwing as much. And again, I'm going to walk you through that process, and that might mean going out with 1 rod on the deck of the boat for an entire day, or maybe 3 or 4 fishing trips until I'm confident fishing that bait. And so that's something else I want to do, and that should make some really good content as well. And so I'm really going to shift my focus to going after those bigger fish, and I'm going to gear all of my YouTube content and all my thoughts and energy into that, because honestly, I am very frustrated after this tournament, and I just want to get those big fish in the boat and kick some butt in these tournaments. And so really the goal for this video is not to make excuses for my past tournament. That's why I'm not getting into all the nitty gritty of this thing, because I caught 2 pounds. There's no excuses. I just didn't catch them. And again, that happens. There's a lot of pros that don't catch fish in tournaments and have a bad tournament all the time. But I expect more from myself, and I feel like you guys expect more from me. And so what my plan is over the next month to really start dialing in how to find those bigger than average fish with different baits, with different approaches, and get my mindset right. And then come back for a tournament at the end of April and try to really go in and try to catch some good fish. And so I have a few weeks to prepare here, get my mindset right, and then I'll be back for another tournament, and hopefully we'll be doing a lot better. And so hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully it was helpful. I know that it was a little bit difficult video for me to make, but I do want to be transparent with you guys. I want to be real, because otherwise you're not going to be able to trust anything I'm saying. And so if I'm not open with you when I fail, there's no way you're going to be able to believe me when I succeed. And so hope you guys enjoyed. Again, thank you guys for all the support through the ups and downs I have, having ups and downs, personal life, fishing, whatever it is, you guys are there standing strong with me, and so I really appreciate it. And we're going to get a lot of big fish in the boat and get a lot of good tournament success this year. I guarantee it. And so you'll be able to follow my journey every step of the way. So thanks again for checking this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you on the next one.